Hey there, fellow wanderers. Picture yourself stepping into the medieval world, where the stars are as bright as the flickering candles that cast shadows on the cobblestone. You arrive at a medieval inn, bracing yourself against the nippy breeze, nipping at your cheeks. Your nostrils fill with the musty aroma of wood smoke, mixed with the scent of hay and damp earth. The heavy wooden door groans as you push it open, unleashing a gust of warm, heady air that carries with it the mingled aromas of roasting meat, unwashed bodies, and what might be the faint whiff of ale that's seen better days. This is not a fairy tale. Oh no, this inn is alive with the chatter of travellers and locals alike, their laughs and mutterings melding into the rustic symphony of clinking tankards and shuffling feet upon the worn wooden floors. Of course, the imagination might paint the picture of a charming haven, but as you step further, reality wraps its fingers around, unkempt and raw, rich with stories, yet bearing a penchant for discomfort and danger. So before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. You stride across uneven floorboards, the timbers creaking beneath your boots as you glance around at fellow occupants, an eclectic mix of merchants, pilgrims, artisans, and perhaps a wayward noble or two, all huddled in small groups round the hearth, faces lit by the erratic dance of flames. The warmth on your skin is as fleeting as the comfort you hope to find here. Before long, the reality of the inn's interior settles in. Dirt and disorder lurk in every corner, like shifty shadows. A cat slinks by a little grey phantom weaving expertly through the legs of slumberous patrons, prowling, perhaps, for any morsel that finds its way to the floor. You imagine it's probably earned its keep here, dealing with wayward mice that dare encroach upon this chaotic establishment. An inn in those days is not merely a resting place, it's a microcosm of medieval life, teeming with anecdotes, rich and bawdy, spoken in low murmurs or boisterous shouts, depending on the ale's influence. In this realm of wood and stone, the sensory overload can be a little bewildering, akin to stepping back into a version of reality where convenience has not yet been discovered by the collective mind. Yet, what you see and hear tonight is merely the myriad backdrop to the experiences that await anyone who intrudes into this medieval world. Before you can even begin to think of rest, negotiations for a place to sleep must unfold a tale of shared spaces, intriguing company, and of course, a smattering of vermin for good measure. But hold on to this imagery, this welcome into the medieval reality, one where the curtsying flames cast stories on the walls, and the ever-present murmur of humanity seeps into your bones. You are not yet ready to endure the sensations carved by straw-filled mattresses and rough linens that share both history and fragrance with your dreaming state. Your senses shall remain alert, despite your desire for rest, as the medieval tapestry unfolds with each creaking beam overhead and each curious fellow traveller sharing this timeless space with you. The initial warmth of the inn's common room is deceptive, like a mischievous smile hiding secrets. As you step further in, the relative coziness mingles with a sense of disorder that's almost tangible. Wooden tables bristle with a jumbled sea of mismatched pewter tankards, and half-eaten trenchers the telltale leftovers of hurried meals. Like a scene from a disarrayed dining hall, strangers, now mashed into temporary allies by the call of the road, share crude benches in a place that caters to neither privacy nor comfort. Here, talk ranges from desperate whispers of nearing debts to lively debates about which kingdom can boast the finest cheese. A hastily clad minstrel strums a lute in the corner, the notes occasionally wobbling like a spoken word from a mouth too loose with the drink. You find it odd how quickly you're drawn into the ebb and flow of conversation. Laughter rings out, hearty and unrestrained, bouncing off the flint walls. When someone in the room lets out an overly hearty sneeze, you're reminded that hygiene, much like personal space, is an annual visitor here at best. The air is thicker, veritable stew of savoury scents, mixed with the more pungent odours of unwashed bodies, likely unwashed for stretches that would have invented new lengths as far as your modern sensibilities go. But history has taught you that neighborly aromas often come part and parcel with communal living. On the brighter side, at least it's likely the seasonal chill that turns open windows as your first line of ventilation. The innkeeper glides through the crowd with the finesse of someone who knows their domain inside and out. Despite appearing to do little more than talk and pour ale, there's a watchfulness in their eyes suggesting more than meets the eye. Some locals, rumbling with the ale, call this character by name, leaning over the sticky countertop with familiar ease. All within the bounds of a wry jest can turn at the tip of a tankard. The innkeeper's smile is a practiced device kind, yet knowing. If you listen closely, you'll hear a litany of requests. Another pint. Some stew for me, friend. Ondar says he saw something peculiar out there in the dark. You wonder if perhaps this person has the social influence of a minor nobleman, but chooses this chaos for its predictability and disorder. As you gather your bearings, a well-intentioned traveller shuffles over to your side. You're welcomed with a nod, and without waiting for your agreement, they launch into a tale of a deal gone wrong at the last market they visited, complete with dramatic arm gestures and punctuating chuckles. Aloft, candelabras hang by heavy chains from the rafters, casting a sultry glow on weathered faces. Shadows linger, darkening the recesses to hold unknown stories and possibly darker secrets. The inn's patrons each, as different as the tales they spin create, a colourful tapestry against the backdrop of this otherwise dour setting. Yet, amidst these stories and connections, somewhere lies the danger of superficial camaraderie. Caution remains your steadfast companion, a quiet whisper reminding of the thin line between conviviality and cunning. After all, the medieval inn offers simple warmth, but never the sort of conveniently placed inn amenities you'll wittily crib about, like that elusive dream of a midnight snack from a room down the corridor. Here, you attend to your own needs. Strange bedfellows, though you may meet in your search for a bed. So, drink deep of the present, while warily poised on the edge of your seat, for the night's offerings have only just begun to reveal themselves. As you linger among the throng of travellers and locals, your thoughts turn towards securing a resting place for the night. Within these wooden walls, room assignments are a delicate dance requiring intuition, negotiation skills, and in some cases, a dollop of luck. The medieval inn is less a sanctuary and more a hub of shared humanity, often uncomfortably so. Sleep, much like Wi-Fi in the modern age, is elusive and dearly sought. In truth, your quest for a bed has all the trimmings of an improvised comedy. The room assignments are anything but systematic. There's no friendly receptionist to point the way. Spaces are communal, and your companions for the night might include fellow road-weary travellers, local regulars, or the legions of lice whose tenacity deserves commendation, if not admiration. The process begins with bartering a price or favour with the ever-watchful innkeeper. Coins are always preferred, but aren't always what's on offer. Some travellers trade goods, others their skills a piece of crafted leather, a quick repair of the inn's creaky door. Historians still argue whether this barter system actually facilitated trust or compounded the chaos. But those silver coins glinting under candlelight often led to much more than mere rest. Once terms are settled, the question of space unfolding is often met with a stranger's good-natured nod or the knit brow of suspicion. Aspirational hierarchies meet practical necessity when two strangers are wedged side by side, each clutching a meagre blanket. You learn quickly that proximity breeds an odd sort of intimacy when stories of harrowing travels are exchanged, even if participants have been rendered aromatic by hour-long days and ages-old inns. Dare you lay claim to a spot on one of the lumpy straw mattresses lining the room's perimeter, you must accept your new neighbour human and otherwise. There's a resigned acceptance to sharing space with scurrying foot traffic of toes that aren't your own, or the patter of scaly interlopers. You might even hear them scuttling through the bedding, proving themselves quite the adept climbers. A bit of whispered superstition often joins you there, as well as smattering of worn talismans or protective charms hang from necks, warding against unwanted nighttime adventures. Light fades into the evening, shadows deepen, and the stories grow quieter. A flickering candle by your makeshift bed casts a dance of shadows upon the walls, weaving fleeting dreams before sleep's persuasive pull takes its hold. Yet, with your senses heightened, your attention piqued, You can almost hear the quiet bond forming between travelers as gentle snores join the ambient chorus. For all its trials, the inn remains a pulsing testament to human connection, a place where shared trials forge fleeting friendships, if only for the night. The knowledge that your path and that of your nocturnal neighbor would diverge by morning lends a gentle urgency to the slumber that eventually, inevitably claims you. As you settle, seeking solace in the very squeeze of space that's shared, you hold close the hope that the night might pass with more sleep than symphyses of scurrying. Rest, after all, is seldom found in isolation when you're nestled within the heart of a medieval inn. Your choice of sleeping arrangements secured, you prepare to bed down for the night. The reality of the medieval mattress awaits a simple construction, humble in material yet notorious in its concealed discomfort. These makeshift beds are often filled with straw, a natural stuffing that seems soft and invitingly dry when you first lie down, but soon reveals itself as a playground for the unseen. Between the dusty fibers and the itch-inducing insects, you find that rest is as prickly and elusive as a barbed irony. As you recline, the mattress crunches beneath your weary frame, cushioned ever so lightly by the faded sackcloth that's been frayed by years of use and the demands of countless travelers. You might idly wish for something akin to a modern memory foam mattress, its luxury as foreign to this world as a flying chariot. The straw beneath you shifts, offering an unpredictable landscape that demands nightly navigation as you twist and tuck in search of solace. It isn't long before you're reminded of your unseen sleeping companions. You feel a faint itch develop into a delicate pitter-patter of visits from lice and fleas, whose ubiquity forms a part of the medieval traveller's initiation. They scurry through the straw like tiny acrobats, eager to explore the new terrain your presence provides. If you're lucky or seasoned with sage, you've brought along a small flask of lavender water or another herbal concoction to try and ward off the inevitable irritation. Lice, much like dust, are masters of infiltration. They leap onto clothing and work their way up to your scalp with the persistence of a storming army. Tired but resigned, you reconsider the medieval practice of sleeping with one's nightcap firmly secured. After all, with hair as a battlefield, it might just protect against itchy invasions. Some say the lice infestations were a misstep of poor hygiene, while others acknowledge nature's sway in an environment so ripe for their proliferation. Historians still argue whether some inns managed to present lower risk in this atmospheric race, or if it was simply a matter of personal hygiene, lack thereof, leading to more pestered souls. Despite the consternation of your fellow traveller, sir, perhaps because of it comedy sometimes spills from the satirical quips made at the expense of your unwelcome visitors and their itchy nature. Imagine one weary soul poking fun at another whose agitated wriggling makes a game of counting scratches to pass the night. Another joke or two lightens the load, transforming shared discomfort into an oddly binding experience. The wind outside picks up its lullaby, serenading the inn walls with a gentle moan, its cool breath seeping through chinks the construction had abandoned for artistry. It's the only blanket of calm as you settle beneath your own makeshift cover, scratchy and heavier rough wool breed of aloe for the mind. You'll find the inn's atmosphere quiets along with the fading lights, voices giving way to the rustle and sighs of sleep's embrace. In this frame of mind, cradled by the wear and tear of the day's demands, and lulled by the muted hum of slumbering breath, you drift into an intermittent sleep. Underneath it all, the straw cradles you on its spikily tender bed, while the inn's unique score sweeps over you, a melody composed of the snores and creaking beams, punctuated by the occasional scurrying friend across your sleepy foot. As you close your eyes, you surrender to the gentle tussle of feather and straw, drowsiness slipping like sand through an hourglasser fitting end to a medieval day that's been long, and above all, grounded in a peculiar kind of companionship. As the night deepens, your senses remain attuned to the symphony of sounds that fill the medieval evening. Slumber does not come easily as the auditory landscape of the inn shifts and evolves, weaving a tapestry of life that is unbridled, intimate, and unfiltered. Within these walls, sound takes on a corporeal presence, jostling for attention alongside the dim, oil-licked shadows. The first note in this nocturnal sonnet is the steady drone of snores, a rhythmic bass line accompanying the night's unfolding. Each one carries its own peculiar timbera mix of nasal droning, the raspy hush of turbulent dreams, and the deep, earthy vibrations that suggest a lifetime well spent in laughter and ale. If you're fortunate, these sounds are distant echoes, softened by the weaving of straw walls and the muffled cloaks of the slumbering. Occasionally, an impromptu tavern brawl breaks the threader clash of clattering tankards, and the sudden, shuffling escalation followed by flushed apologies, or, alternatively, improbably reconciled camaraderie. These are common enough disruptions in a world where alcohol often serves as tacit mediator and agitator in social dynamics. The clamour might befit a dramatic play, with participants acting parts as they rouse from drinking stupors, just enough to raise ad hoc objections. Over the nightstand drifts the occasional murmur of conversation. Even in sleep, some are loquacious, with mumbled remnants of tales spun around the inn's hearth, where jesters weave words to ink the night with laughter. Those words echo in slumber, just as they do in waking, punctuated by the sleep-tousled rustle of travellers shifting in place jockeying for comfort within confines that couldn't compete with the luxury even of a hammock beneath a great tree's crook. As the night wears on, other, more petite creatures tap along the floorboards, revealing the cast of small paws and curious noses inching toward any scraps left unsecured either, vigilant for some dropped morsel. These brave foragers, perhaps descended from families who've mastered living at the fringes of human habitation, stir your imagination and impart a fleeting moment of humility. Outside the walls, an autumn wind moans like a lovelorn ghost, wending through the branches of proudly defiant trees, whose leaves surrender reluctantly to this act of possession. The cold stone beneath you bears witness, voicing its creaks and groans, each new utterance heralding the passage of time like an indifferent elder. You might rest grateful for the modest fire's radiant embrace, keeping at bay the chill that prowls like a patient predator at the door. Even if sleep eludes you, hitching a ride amidst this living orchestra connects you sincerely to the inn's heartbeat. If you wander with imagination, you might catch fragments of bygone conversations, rumors of kings and kingdoms, tales of travelers and troubadours. There's an echo of their presence within these sounds, their voices a soft chorus in the history coursing through this unassuming corner of the world. With night as your quiet companion, time becomes unmoored as the layers of medieval life are etched into your memory. Your senses drift, perhaps occasionally resigned to momentary stillness, betraying the realization that some battles like classifying medieval snores or untangling the language of creaking wood are best left fought on another night. In the cacophony of a seemingly unremarkable inn, a world unfolds, endless stories sung to the tune of starlight, the melody timeless and all-encompassing. As the night unfolds around you, attention may drift toward the enigmatic figure of the Innkeeper. An intriguing blend of authority and mystery, the Innkeeper wields quiet power within these walls, moving seamlessly through the chaos and woven into the fabric of nightly affairs. In their hands lies the delicate balance between hospitality and control. They are the gatekeeper of tales, both rowdy and whispered. At first glance, the Innkeeper seems a person of simple duty, pouring ale and settling nightly fees. But look closer, and you'll notice their eyes, a kaleidoscope of shrewdness and grandeur scanning the room. Those eyes catch everything, furtive glances exchanged between strangers, the hands slipping too close to another's pouch, and the ever-watchful cats ensuring no rodent claims a free meal. This person reads the room like a well-thumbed book, each patron another chapter filled with subplots unraveling in real time. The Innkeeper's ears might perk up at mention of far-off battles, perhaps sparking internal calculations about the tavern's security. Or maybe they wince inside at rumors of marching armies that, with their inexhaustible thirst for ale and lodgings, could reduce peace to rubble. Historians still argue whether such figures wielded more power than the local sheriff, their influence extending into the alleys and through the countryside. Yet Despitior, perhaps because of this perceptive acuity, the Innkeeper maintains a roster of tales, deeply etched memories of those who've passed through the ale-splotched registry onto lives unknowable, yet fascinating. Ask about them, and you'll likely receive a whimsical anecdote in return. Perhaps the tale of the sailor who traded sea stories for ale, or the barmaid who once juggled flaming cups as entertainment, is more than just a tale. Their amusement peeks through at travelers trying to smuggle excess supplies, the eager juggler of the daily chores, or thinly veiled efforts of romantic entanglements levied by Ale's liquid courage. The innkeeper deals in stories, secrets, and comradeship, bought with a stout jug and a knowing grin. They carry an enigmatic reputation, some say near sorcery, in how they predict what trouble will visit that night. Tales often leak from the innkeeper's wisdom and savvy nose for danger, seamlessly blending into the mythic fabric of medieval lore, interwoven with both the marvelous and the mundane. As the beer flows, the tales grow wilder, paired slickly with laughter and possibly a little winking charm. While their smile is a ready companion, their hospitality extends with conditions again, neither entirely confrontational nor overtly kind, rather born of unspoken understandings. Everyone knew their place, at least while in the innkeeper's dominion. They keep the peace, in some cases brokering truces over spilled mugs or wayward talk. As you rest within the inn's embrace, perhaps that mysterious air mingles with your thoughts. The voice trailing from the other side of the shadow-touched counter could dance its way through echoes of wooden timbers, hinting that in the quiet corridors of medieval inn life, authority wasn't merely wielded by the knight's sword, but rather by the ability to mold everything from ambiance to companionship to the tone and tenor of weary souls in need of repose. As you let the evening unwind you further, remember, even in places as humble as this, magic twines with mere mortals. Here, at the intersection of fact and fable, the night's profound simplicity carries us along mystically until the first light peaks upon the morrow. As the night further tightens its grip around the inn, your eyes flicker to the modest source of illumination candles. These humble tapers, worn down by time and shadows, flicker with the uncertainty of their fragile existence. The dim glow they cast skims across rough-hewn tables and beams, revealing what electric minds take for granted: the powerful effect of ambient lighting, or lack thereof. A candle's light is a living thing. It dances with every draught, the barest stir of air breathing life into its flickering form. You could find almost a hypnotic rhythm in watching its quivering glow, but it also casts cautionary shadows, painting the walls with ghostly silhouettes that encourage the imagination to spiral into uneasy territories. As darkness lays heavy, shadows lengthen and deepen, transforming previous familiarity into mystery. In a medieval inn, the flickering candle is far more than a mere utensil for sight. It's a sentinel against encroaching darkness. Its weak, wavering beam separates the familiar from the unfathomable. Think of its light as a ward against the night-omega barrier between travelers and the shadows that might conceal humans, spirits, or both, depending on who spins the tale. The scent of tallow perfumes the air, mingling with the rustic aroma of smoke and lodge. In many cases, candles were made from animal fat, the rendering process lending an earthy smell, a reminder of the resourcefulness required to maintain even basic light. At times, when war or necessity deemed it so, these candles were not a given. Historians still debate whether lighting was used purely for function or wielded as a tool of status and indulgence among those who could afford the luxury of extended illumination, as costly beeswax candles purportedly burned with a cleaner glow. Yet, as the night draws on, the dim candlelight serves as a catalyst for narratives woven from both fabric of fear and fascination. This was the kind of light beneath which tales of the supernatural grew bold. In a world where shadows spun elaborate yarns and candlelight inked legends onto the minds of listeners, this place where story exists, fungible with fact, provided both illumination and provocation. Despite its utility, the candle, with its scanty flame, owned a reputation for seduction and trickery. It guided travelers' weary steps, as much as it led their minds astray, encouraging whispers of once living souls still lurking, unwilling to relinquish their earthly haunts. And in-room, where walls tighten in dark intimacy, these whispered tendrils of ideas linger like the scent of melted wax, both persistent and faint. Watching that candlelight flicker from the safe confines of coverlets in the inn, you may wonder how much of what it reveals is real. There's a sense of comfort in this bewitching stillness zone that's hard to achieve through brighter, bolder beams. It encourages thoughts unburdened by the harshness of blazing bulbs, inviting a softer meditation, a blending of senses, thoughts coaxed by its ethereal dance. With each detail, each flicker, scent, and shadow you unwittingly weave into the fabric of this time and place. The candlelight enveloped 7 embraces the night as delicate laughs and whispers shroud the corners, drawing gentle delineations between where bedtime creosote concludes and dreams dare to take flight. As your eyes grow heavy, lulled by the capering glow, blessed respite is tempted by guarded dreams. The candle sways with providence, its lifetime measured as poignantly as the moments it tenderly illuminates. As you settle into your makeshift place of rest, the ambient setting of the medieval inn unfurls its role beyond a simple sanctuary for the road-weary. These communal spaces are more than perfunctory lodging, they are bustling centers of exchange, where gossip, goods, and glances are traded with equal fervor. Within its walls, the convivial inn is a crucible for shared human experience. Amidst the blend of sensory overload, warmth pervades the warmth of human presence, of collective stories, and sometimes ambition-soaked agendas. Here, travelers meet, their paths intersecting like rivers, conjoining into a single stream before separating once more into their own chosen course. You listen to the conversations that ripple through the room, faint whispers mixing with bolder declarations that ring post-toast. In medieval inns, travelers from all walks of life cross thresholds to find temporary refuge from the elements. Merchants might have carried tales from distant corners, and pilgrims wove elaborate recounts of hallowed sites, every word embroidered into history's rich tapestry. The tales or traditions brought there could quite literally alter one's regional landscape or change plans, as maps were not objects of casual study, often fickle, and shaped impressions that could make adventurous detours an imminent possibility. These shared spaces also witnessed intrigue and dealings that set the very tone of many a medieval night. Quirky characters, too, weave their own tales in candlelit corners known as regulars. They add a familiar murmur to the inn's chaotic chorus. Every night welcomes both camaraderie and conflict, as jovial ale-fueled debates give way to harmony or the occasional skirmish resolved by the innkeeper's timely intervention. Should you sit a while at one of these ruddy wooden tables, you might meet eyes with a travelling barda, custodian of stories carried and passed along, sometimes accompanied by a lyre's melody, trickling through the air like gentle rain. Historians still argue whether these entertainers were truly welcomed, or whether their songs were merely tolerated in exchange for the news they carried. Periodic peals of laughter leap forth and flicker like the ceaseless dance of candle flames. You see a group of travellers leaning in close with congenial familiarity, sharing tales of chivalric knights or wily tricksters, lending narrative threads to spool into the rich tapestries lining the halls of collective memory. Their stories, however tall, blend the real with the fantastical, drawing in the lingering listeners who cling to every word. Though no radios resound or screens blare, the inn's common area becomes a cultural marriage of merchants' marketplace, theatre stage, and courtroom. It carries a momentum, it in the form of a hasty marketplace item exchange, settled over a handshake, or in debates about the latest ruling of a regional lord that spread whispers of humour or challenge. In moments of quiet, where shadows deepen with the dying embers, the inn softens, melting into expected sleep. Yet, the thin thread of proximity fostered amidst strangers under its roof remains a poignant museum bridge, however ephemeral, linking narratives in a web of stories drawn across different times and terrains. Nestled within this vibrant backdrop, sleep becomes secondary. Here, in these spaces of transient connection, medieval inns live beyond simple shelter offering, a place for the weave of fate's serendipitous encounters to unfold in vivid history. It's where tapestry of disparate journeys converge, revealing humanity intertwined through the push and pull tension of friendship, trade, and temporary kinship. Within this microcosm thrives an aliveness deeply resonant and bravier breadth of overlapping existence, encapsulated in tales as distinct yet connected as the adventure continuing beyond these storied walls. As the night continues its steady march toward morning, you turn your attention to the pervasive sense of insecurity that lingers despite the inn's superficially welcoming atmosphere. For all its lively warmth and camaraderie, a medieval inn presents a distinct lack of reliable security, leaving your mind unsettled in a curious dance between vigilance and vulnerability. The inn's doors, made from thick, weather-beaten wood, hang with an air of reluctant defiance against the night, their latches often little more than pegs or bars easily lifted. The locks, if present, are rudimentary, at best more show than substance, in a world where trust comes with a side of skepticism. It's a sobering reality that you're required to sleep with one eye open, metaphorically speaking. The crackling fires may ward off evening's chill, but they do little to forestall the potential for any manner of unexpected intrusions. Sleeping quarters are usually sparse, and even if a room of your own is attainable, any notion of privacy is a mere wish among hearty shadows. Shared spaces open a window to camaraderie, yes, but also to the hazards of light-fingered individuals and opportunists eager to claim unattended possessions. Stories circulate whether they whisper or shout off. Travellers lighten dramatically of weight after a night's rest, their belongings spirited away by a person whose face they'd recalled only dimly. In such a time, peace of mind is crafted either by quick magazine dealings with the innkeeper or by savvy precautions layered with an air of nonchalance. Sleep comes cradled by intuition and conditional trust, often beneath the cloak of the shared apprehension that drifts between thin walls. Adding to the air of unease, travel, especially at night, comes with its own set of dangers, turning inns into an essential stopover despite their rough edges. Bandits and highwaymen frequently roam routes travelled by the unwary, their shadows cast long over paths as eager hands lie in wait. One night's stay blurs into necessity, when options beyond well-placed walls and a watchful community grow scarce as the moon's silver hang glows high. Exposure to draughts and unstable elements also reminded patrons of the ephemeral nature of safety. Stiff breeze, or the crash of an unseen bough, casting only minor reminders of the tempestuous world right beyond reach. Guards, where present, imply some reassurance, but possibly they are as prone to ale's allure as any other. Historians still debate the practices employed at different inns to combat these vulnerabilities, with some suggesting that communal vigilance naturally arose amongst frequent travellers, drawing strength in numbers whether by nature or necessity. Perhaps storytelling, stories of past thefts, then gaining traction as a preventative measure. In this modest yet complex landscape, you find yourself reflecting on the dichotomous nature of security in an inn shaped equally by its walls and the people who shelter within them. An enduring tension underpins the night, coloured by the uncertainty of rest uninterrupted and wandering eyes, intent upon surreptitious treasures newly acquired. As morning teases its approach, you're nudged by the reminder that here, beneath the inn's roof, survival isn't solely an exercise in physical comfort, but also a dance of wit and perception, calculated gamble, where nightly choices define tomorrow's course. With these thoughts swirling, perhaps sleep comes finally after a fitful slumber, edged by dreams marked by the perilously fine line between comfort and chaos. As dawn teases the horizon and the inn transitions from night to day, the setting reveals one of its most pervasive challenges: sanitation, or rather, the glaring lack thereof. In an era where modern plumbing is a distant dream and cleanliness is a feat, you'll quickly become aware of the medieval inn's pungent tapestry of sense-a-melodious concoction of earthy must, bodily aroma, and the clinging residue of last night's revelry. Imagine waking up to the mingling scents that reflect rather than conceal the night's activities. The air bears testament to layers of deep-soaked history, a combination of smoke from the fireplace, which seems to linger amid the wooden beams, and the sour vestiges of spilled ale soaked into the floorboards. Unwashed bodies, clothed in garments that scarcely see a wash themselves, contribute their own unique notes to this unending symphony. Central to matters of sanitation are the amusingly medieval notion of itis, the humble chamber pot. Tucked underneath beds, or hidden behind bolted doors, these unsung heroes of the past await their morning ritual. Emptying them is a task whispered about with disdain, a morning chore to be graciously delegated or begrudgingly attended to by early risers with stronger constitutions. Of course, the inn staff, masters of necessity, are no strangers to navigating the artful dodge of air kissed by these tepid vessels. Historians still argue whether medieval inns ever truly had any semblance of consistent cleanliness standards. Some assert that diligent innkeepers insisted upon organized cleaning regimens, but the popular view is that what passed as clean then may hardly qualify in modern society, even slightly offend the nose of a passing dog. The continuity of fragrance might well echo the innkeeper's discretioner, perhaps their inattention. Occupying this delicate balance of human proximity and shared quarters, medieval denizens, the artistically creative minds, they were pioneered perfumes and pomades to temper the inevitable social proximity. Herbal rinses, flowers sewn into sleeves or tucked into sleeves, were a gap against the olfactory onslaught. Nature's bounty, an aromatic resource, became an indirect retort to the less pleasant facets of daily living, managing to ward off pestilences alongside catching the favorable eye, or nose, of a compatible companion. In another corner of this aromatic world lies the kitchen, the heart of the olfactory storm. It churns out tempting meals, always in danger of being overshadowed by the more visceral elements of scent development in the adjoining common room. A hero amidst these conflicting fragrances stands thick stews, seasoned richly with herbs enough to bridge the senses into relative harmony. Yet even the heartiest porridge lingers, whispering promises of a fortifying meal that teases you awake. Thus, as light casts tentative fingers across the inn, greeting nose and mind alike, you step into the day with a heightened awareness of your surroundings, the invisible gallery of scents woven into the inn's very essence. Here, you must embrace this medieval medley with a cautious inhale, holding curiosity over judgment while keeping a fair sense of humor close. After all, this world is rich with lessons learned in the absence of convenient drainage or daily scrubs, a place where resourcefulness reigned long before the dawn of running water and sudsy baths. With one final nostalgic sigh, you step out, onwards into the morning, optimistic and hoping for somewhat fresher encounters in the light and life of another day. As the inn stirs to life and the clamour of morning rituals begins, the promise or peril of breakfast calls to you. Medieval dining, particularly in an inn, offers an adventure that is as much about survival as it is about culinary exploration. Enter the inn's dining area, or perhaps remain seated at your table from the night before, as a pot serves up a new round of ale as the de facto breakfast beverage and the promise of nourishment looms. Settling at a rough-hewn table, the smells emanating from the kitchen offer some reassurance, earthy and robust. They blend with the gentle crackle of the hearth where some mixture of meat and barley bubbles away. You may be surprised to find the steadfast porridge making its appearance, oats and grains stewed together in thick embrace. Once, it was the morning staple of the masses, easy to digest, easier still to serve en masse, and thankfully often laden with honey or sometimes dried fruits to combat its otherwise bland honesty. Preparing to feast, your eyes might wander over the wide trestles, a delectable smorgasbord of medieval life. Stale bread, toughened with age and preserved in its firm state, is everywhere, a constant reminder of a time when even the crust of life was a thing to be treasured. Look carefully, though, and you'll see it doubling as a trencher, the medieval plat absorbing the juices of whatever meat and graced it, before being consumed altogether. The question always hangs in the air. What kind of meat might you encounter here? Without the guidance of a labelled menu, mystery meat takes on a real, tangible meaning. Beef, mutton, or pork might adorn the table, but game meats like venison and rabbit often abounded, their presentation akin not to the polish of modern plating, but rather the hearty fulsomeness of practical abundance. Though hygiene remains a question, these were seasoned masters of herbs, perhaps involuntarily countering the gamey taint with handfuls of rosemary, sage, or garlic to mask or transform. It's not all hearty fare, though. If the inn adjoins or belongs to an area with access to rivers, you might also entertain the complexities of fish. Smoked or salted, herring serves as a spiny punctuation mark in an otherwise meaty paragraph of flavors. Your fellow diners' handheld devotions to these morsels offer a mix of feasting entertainment and survivalist, reminders you must tackle the intricacies of bones and skin with skill or grit. What more exciting beginning to a day could there be? The skill of the cook is another component of this medieval dining tapestry. With no standard recipe to guide the hand, you can imagine the frustrations and moments of triumph they experience, relying on instinct and tradition of craft. Historians still argue whether some recipes did exist, capably shared across generations, or if the inn's kitchen was entirely at the mercy of hoarded spices and luck, a mix of mystery and mastery that flavors speculation further. Seated in this rustic ambience, raised tankards of ale or sometimes sweetened wine replaced tea, caffeinated vigor considered far from reach. The ale was, importantly, safer than water, brewing acting as an accidental purifier of the river or well's mysterious intentions. It provided congenial lubrication for breakfast. Talisa salute to another day's possibility, told in tandem with boasted account. As you join in the revelry of morning, recanting tales told under flickering candlelight and sharing anticipations for the coming travel, appreciate the tapestry of medieval sustenance spread before you. Each bite, each aroma, intertwines with human ingenuity, revealing a time when the table was both the anchor of community and a theatre of necessity. Conversations flow tidal across the space philosophies pondered, ideas exchanged with strangers turned friends under the roof of common experience. A simple meal becomes a banquet of shared existence. In every bite, taste the resilience, adaptability, and indefatigable hope encapsulated lovingly in this slice of history. As the remnants of breakfast are cleared away, your thoughts gradually shift to the liquid companions of the medieval inn, ale and water. In a world where potability remains an elusive guarantee, choosing what to drink becomes an experience filled with both tradition and calculated risk. Ale, the ubiquitous beverage of choice, is as vital to survival as bread. Brewed to varying strengths, it serves not only as a hearty drink, but also effectively quashes the threat of waterborne ailments, a medieval disinfectant with a kick. The average ale is weak by modern standards, akin to liquid bread, consumed habitually by adults and children alike. It's a multi-purpose elixir and part of daily life, generating both jovial revelry and all too common overindulgence at the long tables. As you sip from a roughly hewn tankard, the rich malty warmth of ale diffuse within you. It's a reminder of simpler alchemies, where water and grain combine through the transformative magic of yeast. Your fellow travelers engage in the gentle art of fermentation. Each inn, known for a specific brew, a calling card for its local reputation and expertise. As stories unfold over mugs, you consider the irony. Here, in the past, a drink we now enjoy for leisure was a daily staple out of necessity. But for those who crave a simpler thirst quench, water whispers its dangerous allure. Drawn from wells or streams with a skeptical wink toward potability, the water brings ambivalence into the heart of every traveler. Whether laced with questionable minerals or the more sinister hint of effluent from mill or farmer, water comes with strings attached, even when consumed only in boiled forms. Historians still argue whether water sources were ever truly dependable without subtle intervention. Innkeepers could employ simple filtration methods, such as using charcoal or cloth, or perhaps boiling it during mundane meals, but those efforts themselves fall to the mercy of a medieval understanding of cleanliness, a hopeful wink to nature's less than forgiving tendencies. To further enhance drinking experience, innkeepers and patrons alike sometimes incorporated herbs and spices into ale, offering not only flavor but another layer of protection against looming pathogens. The herbs, an earthy tapestry woven through each sip, call forth the bounty of nature with their aromatic promises, lending elegance to their combined flavors. When morning light fills their tankards, travelers might find mixed within their cup the dregs of wild yeasts, suspenders of organic matter, suggestive of a more natural, spontaneous garden of fermentation. It's easy to imagine conversations filled with subtle acknowledgement of a fellow traveler's prized find. A new ale tasted with vigor, awarded accolades contesting for superiority of quenching powers. In an age without the luxury of refrigeration, freshness joins the ranks of gamble. A quest ensuring ale retains potency, but not the tang of sour regret. Through trial and error, networks of brewers are sealwives known as masters of brewing, who guided the brew to completion with knowledge earned and shared through generations. Given the choice, you, like many others, may gravitate towards ale for the sake of both flavor and safety. Water, when absolutely necessary, must be treated with caution, a last resort. As you lift the tankard, you join the thousands before you, who chose merriment beneath an inn's welcoming beam, embroidering each sip into the grand tapestry of camaraderie and survival, that is the medieval inn. This mosaic of the past reveals the delicate balancing act maintained by necessity over indulgency, a swirl of craftsmanship and tradition, pointing back to the constancy of the flowing barrel and the ever-present alehouse clamour. Here, in simplicity, imbued with gratitude for another day spent in modest comfort, you toast history with a raised mug in appreciation of ale's enduring legacy. As midday approaches and the inn thrums with life, you find yourself swayed by the rhythms of medieval entertainmenta, spontaneous burst of diversion, born from the mingling of strangers and the serendipity of leisure. Here, amid the clinking of tankards and the rustle of shifting patrons, the communal hall becomes more than a resting place. It transforms into a stage for impromptu revelry and age-old games. The simple pleasures of board games and dice offer a universal diversion, their appeal stretching like a bridge across time. One game, Nine Men's Morris, holds a place of honor among these stapleaser tactical engagement, reminiscent of simplified chess, its roots digging deep into antiquity. The table becomes a battlefield, with smooth stones or etched wooden markers maneuvering around squares marked upon crudely carved boards. The game demands strategy. Cunning moves juxtaposed with guileless ease it conjures both fervent concentration and shouts of victory or defeat, sparking mini-alliances among players gathered under the watchful eye of worn rafters. Dice, versatile and bold in their minstrelsy of chance, click against the wooden grain, their clatter punctuated by groans and guffaws. Wagers for yet more ale, perhaps, or a coin to spare fly high as fortune and folly dance within the bounds of a game, and the world contracts further within this microcosm. The dies, simple cubes etched or carved from bone, become arbiters of fate, their symmetry unreliable yet magnetic. In rolls that decide fortunes or fall flat, you imagine the echoes of life's rolling tides neatly encapsulated in the humble die. Across the room, melody gives way to rhythmic thumps as brave soulsome emboldened by craft brew succeed to the demands of dance and music. Spontaneous jigs erupt, the floorboards rising in chaotic harmony with the thrumming feet, guided by a minstrel's buoyant tune. A cheeky flute catches fire, leading the way, while hands clap in time to stomps and laughter. Here lies the vibrant pulse of storytelling transmuted into motion, each step stitching moments into the growing fabric of memory. The bard, a figure of mystery and charm, wields a narrative made corporeal through melodia troubadour carrying tales entwined with song. They sit in the hushed shadows, struck like an orchestra, tuning in anticipation of notes filled with heroics and mischief. The legends of beasts and beguilement spun with each pluck of lute string, each strike of the bow. As myths come alive and swirl around the inn's rugged beams, you feel a prickling sense of kinship with the collective memory housed and celebrated here. Reflecting on this melange of entertainment, you consider how the concept of play and leisure exists firmly within the cultural framework of the age where wit and wisdom merge, and games and storytelling offer release from the rigors of work and the unpredictability of life. Historians still argue whether such light-hearted camaraderie existed inwardly as closely among differing classes, but within these chambers, equality resounds under the guise of shared experience. As the sun's amber rays slide along the scuffed surfaces, an invitation stands partake and revel in simple delights offered so freely. Whether engaging in tactile matches of wit across the checkered boards, contemplating the gamble of dice's chaotic symmetry, or merely observing the dancers feng shuiing the room, you find yourself swathed in the merriment that, like the proffered tankards, overflows in gentle abundance. In echoes of laughter and ribaldry, you join with countless others, sharing the joy found in medieval inns, a world bound together by the melody of chance, crafts of cunning, and the intoxicating dance of narrative shared with all who engage these resonant halls. As the afternoon light pours gently through the inn's narrow, clouded windows, you find yourself acutely aware of the quieter, less visible inhabitants of this medieval retreat, creatures, both charming and unnerving, who share your temporary abode. The scuttle of small paws, the whispery shift of minuscule bodies, these are the phantom echoings of roving rats and mysterious noises that join you in this rustic sanctuary, reminding you that nature here is less guest and more familiar resident. The notion of rats conjures up an image neither menacing nor welcome, but rather an intrinsic piece of the medieval stage, an accessory to the play of daily life. These agile creatures are adept at navigating the sprawling wooden kingdom of exposed rafters and shadowed nooks. By day, their presence is largely concealed, their workings subtle like leaves swept gently by the wind. But as dusk stretches into darkness, their choreography breaks cover, their orchestral rustle weaving through the stillness like an unasked-for lullaby. For all their notoriety as harbingers of disease, rats also embody a form of tenacity that speaks not just of survival, but also of ingeniously played odds. Indeed, their proximity to civilization harks a broader tale of intertwined destinies woven by necessity, as both human and rodent seek shelter and warmth from nature's harsher elements. Historians still argue whether their persistent presence relied more heavily on the dross humans produced, or on the carefree snippets of human oversight that generously granted access to bounty. Unseen creatures, too, join this nocturnal ballet. The walls creak, the floors whisper back, and for every creak convincingly attributed to these four-footed companions, another sounder spectral sigh. A mysterious thump remains unfixed, free to roam through minds seasoned with curiosity or fatigue. These noises become an unwritten melody that drifts casually along the fringes of your consciousness, sometimes troubling, more often a lull, gently nudging dreams awake while you wait expectantly for the morning sun. Within the gambrel-roofed haven of this inn, echoes of fauna need not always revel in their presence without benevolence. Here, the domesticated cat plays the erstwhile savior and ancient ally, welcomed for its prowess in keeping smaller, less desired inhabitants at bay. Decked in tawny, or swathed in smoky furs, you catch a glimpse of them, occasionally majestic, often aloof, slithering through clientele as though owned by none, owing no favor, dispensing confidence acquired duly in victory over the day's covert pests. A purr rising from a cozy corner is nature's palliative, an application of grace amid mayhem. The inn's role as a pop-up theatre of natural marvels draws out stoic acceptance from its patrons, who learn to balance acknowledgement with dismissive good humor. Coexistence with these furry and feathered beings is as inevitable and cyclical as the ebb of seasons, accommodating their constant claims viewed with shifted lens, not tolerated, lived with. Room by room, nook by cranny, these watchers and wanderers remind you of another reality, delicate dance of shared space and time, forged in a realm where survival extends beyond humanity and into the pith and pitch of the walls. Evenings filled with unseen exchanges draw a portrait of abundance, and beneath the hallowed rafters of the medieval inn, their subtle presence underscores the unbroken continuity of life, a reflection on endurance, as poetic as any bard's verse. And thus, when the night deepens and the sounds rise, hold your warmth beneath hearth-lit paws, allowing imagination the reins needed to gallop ahead. For each tale told and rat's pawprint etched in dust, you appreciate the inn's ancient tapestry, embracing within it the simplicity of a world unvanquished by time to engage without fear, to revel in curiosity's natural state. Here, history finds new voice in echoes both natural and human, an orchestra playing out louder than whispers and soft hums. As twilight gracefully relinquishes its hold, the realm of night invites another set of unseen participants into the medieval inn, those born not of nature, but of the mind's vivid imagination. Tales of the supernatural weave themselves into the fabric of the evening, an invisible thread connecting travelers across time and matching words to the flickering of a candle's flame. Forget ghost stories told around a suburban campfire. Here, in the flickering glow of the inn's dim interior, such tales gain a visceral, bone-deep presence. Whispers spiral up and around, wrapping tendrils of suggestion through the rafters, as stories speak of nights long past and maidens fair, their voices forever echoing down dimly lit corridors. These spectres, born of shared cultural folklore, traverse the boundary between the possible and the imagined. Each murmur, each half-heard whisper of phantom hoofbeats, weaves around the merriment, waiting to take center stage as shadow and doubt bond in covert affinity. It is said that spirits blend into the earthly realm, wherever life's candle flickers too strongly or too dimly. An inn replete with its ebb of stories and flow of travelers stands, as both beacon and sanctuary for wandering souls, unseen yet ever present. The folk narratives surrounding such places are abundant, with phantoms dressed in the attire of old-world deeds knights who never returned home, lovers stranded in time's embrace, and swindlers bound through debt to repeat eternity's unending cycle. Historians still argue whether such stories held power purely as moral allegory or if they took root in truth and terror. Fear of the inexplicable, they claim, was and remains a universal, powerful motivator, anchoring the ethereal ebb to substantive stone. These tales, whether manifested through a creaking floorboard or a sudden chill despite the fire's glow, nestle comfortably in the folds of conversations, contributing to the inn's atmospheric mystique. Imagine dining at the long table, rafters overhead like ever-watchful sentinels, when a gust of wind slips through a crack with whispered warning and omen of mystery. On such evenings, the very shadows gather close, narratives unfurling their textured banners into spaces just far enough from the familiar, blending history and imagination into one. Children listen wide-eyed, absorbing the legacy of legends that transmute mundane events into the preternaturally thrilling. Their story is a haunt past with no more weight than a sigh strike, an archetype chord that endures beyond age, beyond place. Among a gathering of both strangers and friends, what blends skepticism with belief, nods equally sparking deeper understanding, a solace, sweet and mysterious, buoyed by the comforting knowledge that curiosity's embrace holds safety's breadth. Whether skeptical or intrigued, you find yourself caught in the spell of these spectral interludes. A sincere welcome to join this tradition of unseen customers of the inn. Spiritless voices claw the ear. Theories fly to destinations unknown, transporting each participant from the worn wooden benches into a celestial nooken escapade, into the alluring realm of folk tales and folklore founded amid a tireless course. So, as the night deepens and the versatile light from this flickering candlestick opens shadows upon its palette, your imagination steps forth into unexplored chambers of the mind. With each spectral breath recounted, boundaries of reality stretch, fuse, and border ever anew, and within the space of the inn, comforting tendrils of the past beckon, an invitation extended from the fanciful to entwine with the reverent. Here, amidst the warmth and camaraderie of the gathered, and the resounding echoes of ages, every tale of the spectral gains life, as you dance on the edge of belief and bemusement in the heart of a medieval night. As the lively clamour of the evening fades, giving way to the quieter rumblings of night, you begin to feel a more insidious presence lurking in the shadows of the medieval introspector of disease. In a time before modern medicine, illness lurks like a silent predator, ever present and hidden within the walls and the crowded quarters, the very air itself thick with potential danger. The fear of sickness colours every thought and every story, a formidable ghost capable of bridging worlds and extinguishing life's glowing flame with neither warning nor malice. The medieval landscape is one where disease emerges unheralded, striking indiscriminately. Within an inn, travellers from far-flung lands converge, sharing stories and wares, but also the invisible threads of contagion woven unnoticed into their travels. The itinerant nature of life beyond the walls facilitated the rapid spread of ailments, each visitor a potential vector bearing the unknown, both the marvels and the maladies of places yet unseen by local eyes. Plagues and fevers to the medieval mind were calamitous and often attributed to unseen forces or divine displeasure. The Black Death, a spectre from not too distant memory, becomes synonymous with terror, a chilling reminder of humanity's fragility. Unsure of the origin, many seek to explain the unexplainable through astrology, humours, or punishment, a panoply of beliefs to which communities cling in desperate hope. Historians still argue about the exact methods employed to counteract these omnipresent threats, although many writings reference charms, spells, or prayers intended to ward off disease. Within the bustling confines of an inn, fear of miasmas, bad air suspected of carrying illnesses drives, frequent opening of shutters, even on the coldest nights, to allow fresh air to worm its way in, like a tangible sigh of relief. Health, within these walls, is a precarious dance between tradition and desperation, superstition and faith. An inn's hearth might serve a dual role, warming bodies and attempting to shield against more sinister chill. Remedies abound. Mixture of tinctures and brews turned with fervor by wise women, and traveling herbalists who peddle remedies comprising the bounties of nature's origins: garlic, vinegar, Phlebania garden of healing, seeking to outgrow pestilence's reach. At mealtime, dining customs carry with them a hidden purpose beyond mere sustenance. Cooks flavor dishes liberally with herbs believed to fend off maladies, while hearty stews simmer, inviting warmth as much to bring comfort as to boil away contaminations. Drink itself, positioned and folded within ethereal arms, reinforces defense against unseen adversaries, or even sweetens evasion of battle, using flavors like elderflower or lavender. Yet, as you retire for the night, acknowledging the shared vulnerabilities that resonate in every cough, fatigue seems lost against a timeless association not erased by numbers or diagnosis. Conversation assigns names to fears as guests huddle around flickering candlelight in the hope that words will hold frail barriers aloft against the steady rhythm of disease moving in time with the spectres reigning the unseen night. As sleep's own soothing embrace begins to claim your awareness, you find solace nestled beside sympathetic company and stories spun thick in warmth. For it is shared frailty that establishes connection among different paths, connected beneath made shade-own truth, binding each wayfarer in understanding. In the subtle sigh of midnight retreating, note, springing endurance garnished by chamomile's sweet declaration or whispered bone rattles mixed with laughter comfort, rising like tendrils of smoke, melting sleep, a night within oneself, a closing benediction offered, throughout subterfuge and sincere balm. As morning draws near and the inn shakes off the last clinging shadows of night, the practical concerns of settling your stay rise to the fore. Among these, a question of enduring significance presents itself: payment. In this time, when coinage is as variable as the travelers who stride within these walls, handling the economics of an overnight stay can be its own saga, full of intrigue and negotiation. For many medieval travelers, payment is not as simple as sliding a piece of perfectly minted currency across a counter. Coinage varies widely across regions and even towns, each stamped with the face of a different sovereign, each worth different amounts. The art of currency exchange becomes an unwritten skill, a necessity for those adventuring from one realm into another. Some coins, worn smooth by time, hold more sentimental weight than face value, their presence a testament to journeys far undertaken. Yet, as you stand with the innkeeper, the nature of payment dances between the tangibly historic and familiarly personal. Many services rendered involve barter, part of a determined culture that trades deeds for goods. On this morning, as the innkeeper assesses you with a calculating but not unkind gaze, you might find yourself bartering with items as varied as a crafted leather purse, a bolt of cloth, or even manually acquired spices and herbsless, a transaction of necessity and more an artistic ritual of livelihood. Historians still debate the fairness and efficacy of such barter systems, wherein tangible goods carry comparable value to coins when negotiating the soft barter brokering of services. Certain goods, even narrative retellings of distant kingdoms, could sway the careful ear of a well-seasoned innkeeper. Occasionally, eager travelers offer labor as their recompense, whether tending to the stables, drawing water, or stacking hearty timber with due precision. Here, the value of manual work weighs against daily expenses scores as currency within the walls standing rustic still. It isn't just goods or labor. An ailing skill, such as mending a broken chair or writing a fair hand, written document, could just as easily settle an account, released from the debts of your stay. When payment is settled, what remains isn't just an economic exchange, but also a unique form of connection and remembrance. The innkeeper, with a practiced glance and nod, marks such interactions into the mental ledger of stories and accounts a memory signed not solely in currency, but in shared intent, witnessing the mutual closing of another chapter. As you prepare to leave the inn, perhaps a small keepsakian, unassuming token changes hands as both a marker of past journeys and travels yet overstretching the canvas. For those starting anew on well-trodden paths, pieces of new knowledge learned secrets of local roads, tales of adventure now dwelling in the heart become the currency of the road, nourishing potential future exchanges. Thus, stood beside metaphorical crossroads spun beneath the open roof of mottled canopy, a farewell exchange distributes quiet supply amid the dawn-greeting inn's cacophonous heart. Your parting gift, the solemn toll of converging voices destined for trails familiar and far, with delighted intention marked now whence. In each pound of resolve, wound well to embrace endless reaches unknown, encumbered not with doubt nor ghosted-laden ink, but within gathering presence under humble skin treasured, safe kept along memorandum, without count the tale of midday's promise promised. Ready to resume your journey, or perhaps to settle into another day of rest, you begin to better understand the intricate social hierarchies that also restore perhaps royal beneath the inn's rustic facade. In this medieval world, status is a silent currency, woven into the fabric of everyday life, subtly influencing where one sits, sleeps, and even dreams. Begin by considering the sleeping arrangements of your fellow patrons, where the inn's pecking order is as visible as the sundawn's light creeping through leaded glass. Those of means often command private rooms, their status affording the slender solace of privacy, however modestly appointed. This separation provides reprieve from the communal life teeming below, partitioning them from the tavern's hubbub and gossip's dance. Historians still argue whether these rooms truly offered more comfort, or were simply more a status symbol reflective of social rank than luxurious privacy. If your own stature aligns more closely with the majority, you'll discover yourself among the tightly packed quarters, shared with tradesmen, farmers, and vagabonds, the social fabric tied with a mix of stations, all entwined with shared purpose and pursuit. Your humble bed, surrounded by others scarcely less so, tells its story of a world more egalitarian in its simplicity than it appears. Here, within those walls of woven narrative, social class blends seamlessly into the will of attaining warm solace. Dining, too, draws lines, though they may appear more blurred at a glance. People hailing from nobility or wealthy merchant stocks dine perhaps within the inner sanctum or sometimes on raised dais, slightly apart, yet ever watchful over the hall's tide. For those of middle status, provisions suit reflective reach, and remarks nearest the taste closest to hand that of trades spreading through. And yet, what the medieval inn lacks in ostentation, it redeems through the tapestry of human relations sewn into each moment shared. In this microcosmic commune, bread and ale knit temporary kinships, each table a crossroads where stories pile and voices meet upon the tapestry of days. Yet, wit remains an often overlooked equalizer, capable of balancing out disparities in rank in surprising, delightful ways. A well-told tale, or a sharp retort, can elevate even humble merchants to the place of honor at the table, their words shaping a fresh hierarchy for brief yet pivotal durations. In the medieval inn, storytelling becomes more than a pastimeats, a currency as real as the coin in your pouch, elevating the speaker's voice above status disparities, reinvigorating the listener's imagination. This fluidity of social bounds, while anchored firmly in the rigidity of medieval class roles, becomes liberating within the inn's domain. Here, amongst the melody of amber-lit conversations, social interaction fuses into a passage of time, one without judgment, where the storyteller's tale is as rich in scent and hue as hearty stew whose memory lingers long after dawn. Thus, as you navigate this checkerboard of existence, one defined and yet eager to welcome slight realignment, find yourself seated amongst histories, embroidered within new threads. Encounter characters that haunt fleeting intersections of moments, spun gold-together adventurers in juxtaposed fate, gathering lessons and memories colored anew before journey. Beckons forward friends sharing temporary peace amid whispered intrigue and laughter unfurled. In these chosen spaces of shared territory, accommodation denotes more than what is visible, yet transforms into an exploration of connection, underpinned by mute attentions and integrated engagements. The gentle emerging lightning skies manifest these moments at once, ephemeral and grounded sum of consciousness, engaged within a medieval heart's congregation, enchained. As you prepare for another night within the inn's stout, creaking walls, the temperature takes on a biting edge you hadn't quite prepared for, and you quickly learn of yet another discomfort brought by this bygone era. The medieval inn, a sanctuary against the dangers of darkened roads, cannot fully shield you from the elements, especially when those elements seem determined to breach every crevice, any weak point where wood meets stone. The storm outside wails, a banshee keen to find its way in, the sound pressing against your senses. That evening leaves you intimately acquainted with the inn's architectural failings. Draughts, sneaking through window frames, like unseen spectres to tangle with the warmth conjured by your cloak, a thief of heat set on rendering your rest intermittent. As you tuck yourself tightly, seeking sanctuary beneath the coarse woolen blankets provided, you feel the impact of medieval construction practices, divesting their medieval charm. While these walls have withstood countless winters, it is clear that their builders placed more faith in God's grace than painstaking insulation. Lattice timbers groan with the wind, blending the language of elements into the rafters' own creaks and muttered conversations. The roof above becomes a chorus, punctuated by the relentless drum of rain, be it heavy or light, slipping from clouded sheets leaking in slender rivulets toward unseen collectors, in shadows where introductions may lead to beds below. Leaks, eternally nosy, search along these paths into the realm of memory. Historians debate whether innkeepers were craftsmen keeping tune to the woes of winter, or whether they preferred addressing urgent repairs only when in desperate demand. Regardless, what remains noticeable is the cadence of the weather within. Those fortunate enough to huddle closest to the central hearth find fleeting reprieve in its warmth, the fire burning more than just the wood, as it consumes ailments of the spirits as well. An ever-watchful blaze, framed in crackling emergence, serves as hearth's cinching embrace, loaning amber light and warmth that draws weary faces into its soft glow. However, the long benches and cushioned seatings further from the hearth leave patrons reliant on other heat of bodies grouped for warmth, collective collisions, clinging of shared energies. Comfort, under these conditions, becomes a mutable questone that, while finding its center in the warm, flickering promise, invites shared laughter, accompanied by the smoke's unpretentious curls twining through talk. Yet, as the night drags forward and the wind refuses to relent its wailing lament, you feel the persistence of cold, like an unwanted guest, a reminder that even within the perceived security of four walls, nature's indifference unfurls strength irrepressible. For all its majesty, the medieval inn is as much a permeable envelope as its thatched predecessor, shielding passages for crackling draughts and sky's dark tears. And yet, your attention dances here and now, drawn by invisible threads of shared hardship. A warm mug enclosed within eager hands radiates both heat and solace, beckoning you into stories that counter the frosty tide with warmth. These fables, like fires banked for the night, encourage communion found in seed-shaped syllables. As the storm rumbles on outside, you find your eyes drawn toward the fire's embrace, and the shadows that stretch each flicker a whisper that bolsters the courageous soliloquies of this common life-seeking, together mutual understanding within every space. The mutual narrative reverberates within the collective sigh of those about to sleep, cloaked under blankets, or simply cross-legged against the encroaching chill, enfolded deeply within the circle of light and soul. Thus huddled in greater gathering, conversations meet the clangor of droplets, the hush of cooling wind and returning grave commotion knowing its place to rest just this eve between walls, ushering mutual refuge and fate's careful crook. Tomorrow may suppose to the elements again, yielding whatever they might bring, but tonight shared sanctuary is felt more than the sum of its parts, a tale of sanctuary beneath the stars' watch, as connection turns from comfort to companionship, passing in unfathomable breath. As dawn's tentative light creeps through the craggy windows of the inn, you come to realize that the cozy inn also harbors its own set of dangers, far from the invisibility of draughts and pests. These ancient establishments, serving as temporary junctions for travelers of all ilk, can become gathering spots for those driven by less than noble intentions. Beneath the veneer of camaraderie lie subtle threats and unspoken perils, predators, choosing these havens not solely for warmth, but for opportunity. Stepping into common rooms brisk with morning bustle, there's a chorus of activity, a symphony interwoven with voices at ease, cudgels clanking on tables, and modest coin exchanged over remnants of last night's game. Here, in daylight unfurling its cautious tendrils, The inn reveals itself as an intricate web of relationships, threads of trust mingling with currents of suspicion. Innkeepers pride themselves on their vigilant oversight, hawk-eyed glances scanning the room, sifting the gentle from the suspect. Yet, these forums of familiarity are not impervious to the subtler persuasions of deceit and temptation. Travelers who often tread the cobbled roads understand this all too well. Mundane objects gained, quietly exchanged, good subtle reminders of vulnerability accompanying trade. It's wise to keep possessions close and information closer, to whisper in the wake of caution, and vigilance becomes muscle memory in a dance of self-preservation. For every loud jest and flattened mug still bottom-heavy in foam, shadowed corners are filled with whispered transactions where cut purses, hone skills, rogue ruffians exchange knowing nods, and swindlers stand ever ready to lighten your load. Furtive glances flicker beneath furs on the nobler cloaks, recognizing each other with the subtlety of shared intention glinting off hidden blades. Within the mellow hospitality, danger cloaks its appearance in charisma, offering camaraderie in one hand while concealing sleight of hand with the other. For those discerning or aptly blessed with a portion of street wisdom, knowing when to step aside or blend into the background shapes success. Knowing that smiles can stab as fiercely as daggers, you strive to remain present while keeping partial distance from unnecessary entanglements. The roads leading to these inns are no less treacherous, populated by brigands drooling over news of merchants laden with valuables. Tales in the inn recount harrowing escapes and close encounter sheroes, narrowly dodging the grip of bandit treachery. These stories fuel the fires in the hearth, feeding the flames of camaraderie and stirring echoes that drift into your own consciousness, bidding you remember that medieval inns held potential both bountiful and biting. Historians still debate how effectively these inns shielded their patrons from highwaymen's reach, at what expense protection was negotiated with unseen dangers lurking. The reality speaks softly, echoing the varied breadth of protection that could as easily soothe or spur latent tension. Beyond tales of adrenaline and peril, there lies an innate resilience, a camaraderie shared by many like you. Travelers judge and weigh not simply by speech, but by actions. A timely assist with baggage, or a tableside jest that lends to communal trust, a shield fostered in one's penchant for openness. It affirms that within vulnerability thrives unexpected joy, as security is found not in locks, but in acknowledging kindness and faith among passages. As light gathers promise across the threshold, you cast one more contemplative glance over the room. Perhaps amid the inn's flawed shelter, more traits shine through, weaving shared agreements drafted where uncertainty falters, bonded by the timeless union of travel's universal pulse. For, like uncertain dawn meeting light's safe embrace, the medieval inn cradles both doubt and dream, curating nomadic ghosts beneath ever-watchful beams. Onward paths diverge, yet rejoin with others. Pace your journey continues from its heart. The inn, now vibrating with the energy of a new day, sees travelers bustling about, each intent on their own personal quests. In these crowded quarters, where stories and paths intersect, there comes a unique challenge, navigating the cultural blunders and language barriers that are as much a part of the medieval inn experience as the ale and lodging. In a multilingual and multicultural world, the medieval inn is a crucible of miscommunication and comedic confusion. Travelers from far-flung regions bring with them a tapestry of languages and dialects, each as distinct as a herald's banner. The cacophony of voices, French mingling with Flemish, Saxon meshing with Gaelic, creates a backdrop of vibrant dissonance. As you join this eclectic congregation, you may find yourself playing a game of linguistic charades, pointing and gesturing to bridge the gap, hoping for a moment of understanding among a sea of verbal nuance. There's a humor in these exchanges, a shared acknowledgement of the comedic ballet that emerges when words fail our intentions. The resulting misunderstandings are as inevitable as they are entertaining embellished orders sent from the kitchen. Accidental invitations for misunderstandings, where misunderstandings tickle the warm humor innate to roots. Drawn into the exchange, you've learned that the skill of communication here relies heavily on nuance and empathy strategy, meeting art among those eager minds cracking barriers. Smiles, nods, and hand gestures form the cornerstone of idiosyncratic diplomacy. It is a craft that is neither swift nor simple, but rich in charm and peculiar grace, holding its own intrigue as the traveller embraces the varying hues of communication. Beyond language, navigating cultural customs extends another layer of complexity to interactions. Handshakes may baffle a visitor more familiar with bows, while considerate gestures might unknowingly tread upon local taboos. Historians still argue whether the cultural richness of these interminglings left a lasting, transformative impact on communities, or simply concealed their interactions behind mists of tradition. But within this patchwork of interaction lies the opportunity for growth. Every individual, in donning the coat of respectful curiosity, opens doors to newfound experiences, a kind smile able to circumvent 1,000 misunderstandings, clearing the path for shared laughter. The inn, like a neutral kingdom above intrigue, stands home to both exchange and respite, promoting a mutual experience that grows beyond mere words. As the day stretches its arms, you see travellers adjust, stumbling through a dance of verbal missteps that gradually give way to mutual understanding. Every nod, every smile, stretches bridges upon which travellers may cross to find common ground. Soon, charm compels its way over linguistic hurdles, and bedrock conversation forms, tempered by human connection, enabling stories to unfold, untethered by dialect's hold. From the cultural clash emerges an answer, a profound reminder that despite linguistic twists or cultural knots, the language of humanity transcends all other, sharing in the rhythm of life, listening to echoing dreams, and extending one's hand beyond words, for herein is housed a truth found timeless through generations. In its woods or flames, tales or truths bore through aged vessels, passing from one lithium-worn ladle into hands, a stridy acknowledged by thine own scrolled tongue. So as the day's tapestry reveals itself within the inn, embracing the colours and textures of this world, you find a mutual understanding blooming quietly in every shared glance, every halting syllable uttered kindly, spanning bridges formed of common spirit. In this place, rich with culture, yet no stranger to misunderstanding, it's the little exchanges, the silent affirmations that resonate the strongest, paving meaningful connections that can withstand even the strongest dialectical storms. The hours pass, and as the sun climbs higher into the sky, the inn's atmosphere takes on a contemplative air. For beneath the chatter of tradesmen and the merriment of travellers, a subtler thread of influence weaves through the medieval inner dialectic conversation, not often spoken but felt, driven by the presence of religion and its deeply ingrained undertones. In this medieval world, religious beliefs are woven tightly into the fabric of everyday life. The gentle clang of church bells, distant yet vibrant, hums the passage of time into those present within the welcoming embrace of the inn's common room. Such churches lie scattered throughout the realm, casting long shadows across daily practices and into the hearts of the people, imbuing even unassuming places with a sense of the sacred. In the corner of the room, a well-worn icon may rest quietly, framed by ornate carvings that catch glimmers of ambient light. These devotional artifacts, nestled inconspicuously amidst the inn's gruffer decor, stand as simple reminders of one's journey toward piety pilgrimage, not always physical but often spiritual, emboldened amid everyday chaos. Amidst the communal hubbub, travelers offer morsels and murmurs of thanks to a higher power, or perhaps snatch a brief moment of solitude in whispering prayer. Perhaps it's a quick sign of the cross before a meal or a fervent request for safe passage, carried softly on hushed breath. Religion's presence is indirect, yet strikingly profound, an undercurrent beneath the river of travelers' tales. Tales of pilgrimages abound, shared like delicate heirlooms among patrons, each one an illuminating thread within the broader tapestry. Stories of distant cathedrals and sacred shrines unfurl, persuasive in intention and devotion. Listeners find themselves journeying through spiritual landscapes that demand as much reverence as geographical ones, each recounting a beacon guiding future paths of faith. Within these stone walls, resonating with rustic joy, individuals align to distant points along deeper histories wrought by beliefs that shelter comfort above treason of unguarded still. Historians still debate whether the influence of religion shaped inns purely as way stations along divine paths, or if these establishments existed in gentle subversion amidst a church's watchful eye. Regardless, The infusion of spiritual gravity, while subtly met, allows theology to dance upon cork floors, as piety kisses secular ground, evoking charity upon unsuspecting doorstep. Silence retreats as the world beyond unsettles in renewed expectation, causing patrons to pause with respectful gravity that borders on tradition and acknowledging more than mere survival, acknowledging grace, coloured by hues of sanctuaria, reflection, mirror-like, projecting truth's cradle tightly, held in tow, as community entwines the inn's shared stories and tomorrow's spoken in hopeful refrain. Religion mingles among the mugs and moments, affecting a pervasive role, comforting reassurance amid earthbound journeys, a quiet reminder of purpose beyond the immediacy of ale and friendship, spreading warmth to those who venture within. Ultimately, as your evening draws forth, trace the quiet stirrings of eternity into tender connection. Another night, further spent beneath a roof, moulded by beliefs mirrored in every faint gesture, each gentle thought, each silent aspiration, cupping its ancient symmetries of devotion, planting seeds of promise, stretching well beyond the tempered confines within, here woven among shelter, respite, and faith united. A passage born into unseen light tolerated, indeed, rejoiced by holiness gentle grace, curled beneath soft shadows, carved into simple truths, and received with eager eyes. Thus, amid the comfortable clamour of intermingling hospitality, you recognize the gestures that transcend secular time, the chance to cherish fellowship, defined by kin, in joint pilgrimage, mutual encouragement enthroned, poised with quiet significance beneath imperfect speech, as tale speaks fixed light from every lead flame here, nudging closely alongside faith attended without boast. As you step beyond the inn's worn threshold and into the world anew, a pang of homesickness curls into your consciousness, a familiar and poignant companion to travellers whose hearts straddle the divide between adventure and longing for familiarity. In the wake of the inn's vibrant tapestry of stories, you feel an acutely human ache for the comforts and certainties of home that, no matter how rugged or humble, offer sanctuary in their known embrace. The path underfoot is a ribbon of potential and peril, leading you away from the warmth of shared camaraderie, back into the embrace of solitude. Memories of the inn linger, gentle echoes of laughter, and whispered tales vibrating still within the tapestry of your mind, filling the spaces between the now and the next. They tug at the edges of your thoughts with a familiar yearning, softly intoxicating as the ale you've left behind. Homesickness is a delicate shade in the traveller's paletia watercolour wash, binding disparate experiences into the study of a life on the move. It is the smell of familiar bread baking in an oven, not found here, the sound of a distant voice echoing in an inn far away, or a fleeting smile reminiscent of loved ones waiting across villages and valleys. Like a whispered ghost, this emotion slips between broad daylight and twilight dreams, reminding you of the tension stretched between roots and wings. Historically, inns stood at the intersection of these yearnings. To many, they represented not just respite for the body, but for the soul's achier fleeting glimpse of the familiar amidst the proliferation of the unknown. They offered travellers a communal warmth, a hearth around which absent families found surrogate members to share in life's journeys, however brief. But leaving said warmth often rekindles that flickering memory of home, a reminder of permanence amidst transience. As you walk, consider how homesickness shades the lenses through which you pull the world into focus, lending depth to each encounter. It is a brushstroke of melancholy against the canvas of discovery, a bittersweet contrast, shaping each moment into something unique and unforgettable, each meeting and parting a confluence of the past and present, always in dialogue with the spaces left behind. The road unwinds before you, its promise untouched by the tender longing in your chest. Like travellers through centuries, your steps arise from the synthesis of place and memory, a mingling of all the places you've slept and the distinct paths that compelled you forward, a winding narrative spun across landscape, history, and destiny. Together, they bolster each stride made toward the familiarity of home or into the welcoming arms of sought adventure. Beneath the wide sky, feel the gentle pull of places still unseen, and behind them echoes of the ones yet known. Clad against the roaming winds of change, Let this sense of homesickness remind you of your own resilience, its echoes, both melancholy and liberating, a confluence guiding you closer to understanding the self that seeks to grow amidst the distance, gifting clarity amidst dual paths. For in this interplay between the anchor of memory and the sails of journey, life spins endlessly onward, a kaleidoscope of light and shadow, tempered by every place called home. Under the sun's watchful gaze, each step continues to craft and weave the tale of where you came from and where you hope to arrive, a line traceable through historic inns, hospitable hearths, and the quiet places within yourself assured by ages past. So, embrace the whispering ache as you travel, tender, nostalgic, and profound lit. It lends your heart a cadence as you usher through lands akin and far-reaching. The symphony of home furrows recognition into each footfall, as you, a wanderer through time, stride from sanctuary to journey's next welcoming embrace. As you find yourself on the precipice of yet another horizon, the medieval inns embrace now a gentle memory at your back. Reflections weave through your thoughts, peering into the unplumbed depths of what it means to have stood amidst such a bygone world. The journey through the rustic beauty, fierce challenges, and rich textures of medieval life in an inn draws to a quiet close, leaving you to consider the indelible impressions etched across your experience. The inn's walls, pitted with centuries of stories, are alive with both banal routine and dramatic revelation, rare convergence of humanity in its rawest form. You've shared in the laughter, tasted its humble meals, and slept within its embrace, joined in tales spun by flickering candlelight. Even the inn's draughts and scuttling inhabitants seem like facets of a time lived larger than its parts, a harmonious discord of closeness and community. Reflect on the adversity faced within such a space where luxuries were absent and survival flirted with chance. In medieval times, survival transcended daily peril, transcending mere sustenance and venturing into the complex dance of social navigation, personal diplomacy, and collective belonging. In these corridors where travelers danced behind broad smiles burdened with hidden whispers, life unfolded in its splendid simplicity. Yet from these challenges springs resilience. The medieval inn, with all its imperfections, gathered individuals the weary, the hopeful, and the curious, all intent on finding their place within its storied walls. The clattering cacophony, punctuated by the spectre of disease and the gentle reign of religion, carved friendships from fleeting encounters, offering a singular peace and place within the larger tapestry. Historians can continue to debate the impact of these encounters, but to live them, if only in your mind's eye, is to touch a world vibrant in its oscillations between past and present. This world, where vernacular met valor, reminds you ever so gently that history's promise is not remote but resonant, a truth enriched by peering through the temporal looking-glass. Each echo within those walls offers insight into human endurance and an invitation to draw upon those depths, our metaphorical lantern, guiding modern eyes through dimly lit fables, refracting relevance against today's canvas. The comfort of shared embers, the soulful exchange of ideas and customs, all transcend both the passage of time and the limits of the known, nestling transiently within an inn's sanctuaria, remembrance of human kinship edging the infinite. Here lies the heart of community and quest, bound by the notion that every warmth shared ensconces branding across moments which become sepia-toned memories enshrined forever. As you take these stories forward, remember they serve as both a reminder and a relic, a gentle nudge that invites you back to a world in which even the simplest pleasures bore the weight of everything. This journey has offered a glimpse not just into what once was, but who you carry into battle against the ever-unfolding scroll of time, constantly in stride with history. For now, treasure those echoes of legends untold and mysteries half-whispered as you venture into the flow of modernity, allowing each learned thread vibrancy anew. Let the stories unfold further, honoring the world beyond those wooden walls. Censuring the lull of time is measured not in years, but in camaraderie's warm embrace. And so, as you step bravely from this medieval frame, remember that life's true journey rests not in comforts or conquests, but in the allies gained along its winding path. Fare thee well from these storied halls of life past. Your heart has wandered its shadows and light, and a part of you dwells there still time's unbroken adventurer. Sweet dreams.